We're on. We're live. Episode 1 of the Our Loud World podcast, the thing that I've been plotting to unleash onto everyone who knows me for months. Yeah, I'm going to start a podcast. Might be talking about music and other things like that. Okay, cool. And then 6 months later, hey, I'm going to be starting a podcast. I'm going to be talking about music and other things like that. They're like, oh, cool. By the way, we talked about this 6 months ago. It's like, oh, great. Well, shit. So that made me feel kind of like crap. So now I must do this. Now I absolutely must do this. But we're going to keep it semi-topical here. Uh, really trying to from day one show that it's never going to be beneath me to reach out for current music events, current events in the world of music this week, or the series of weeks seems to be plentiful with events and other stories going on. So of course I'm here to pick it apart. And one of them, which I didn't think I have threatened to start something like this for a very long time, but I didn't think the first topic that I'd ever talk about when making a show of some kind, a podcast, if you will, would be about Taylor Swift. But yet here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I said I'd keep it semi-topical. Other than talking about the elections and the weather, I can't think of anything more topical than the comings and goings of Taylor Swift. Tortured Poets Department. The Tortured Poets Department, excuse me. I have never seen a record in my lifetime of, maybe not entire life, but in my music listening, music conscious adult life, I have never seen a record sell as huge as this is right now. This is something I'm going to be coming back to for sure. Today I'm going to be talking about it, but this is going to be a developing thing for sure. Folks, what am I seeing? Of course it's number one. You already know that. But 2.61 million equivalent album sales for a record that came out 5 days ago. 5 calendar days ago. So not even an entire week. 5 days ago, the record came out. It has sold 2.61 million album equivalent units. What does that mean? Well, now in the streaming age, streams and the number of streams, kind of like Costco, bulk together and form an album sale. Because, sales and people going to the store to buy albums kind of went the way of the dodo. But that's slowly changing too because vinyl is back. Vinyl is back in a big way. CDs, still staggering behind, but vinyl's back. And no matter where you go, Target, Best Buy, Walmart, you can probably go to Sears right now. You can probably go to like Kmart, like all three Kmarts that remain in this great nation, and they probably have it there too. So of the 2.61, or let's just call it 2.6 million sales that have gone on, 1 point almost 2 million of those are from actual real sales, like CDs, vinyl, cassette, even cassettes. When you buy a cassette, that should count as like two. That should count as two records you bought. Just for the fact that you bought a Taylor Swift cassette should count as two. It should be like, oh, they bought you moved a cassette unit in 2024. That should count as two. It should be like a twofer. So that's kind of mind blowing. I can't think of anyone else who would do something and move units like Taylor is. It's kind of nuts. This is like this goes beyond even 1990s numbers. For those who aren't aware, and I'm actually staring at a small vinyl stack I have in the corner of my room, um, that contains some of the biggest selling records of all time. To those who weren't aware, in the 90s, you could be a Joe Schmo who comes out of like a cave. You could come out of a cave, in like an Antarctic cave, and like record a couple tracks, have Geffen Records pick it up, and then boom, 5 million record sales guaranteed. I promise. Everybody in the 90s, everybody had like, by law, you had to have like a platinum record. So it was unreal. Go go when you have a chance. Find an artist of the 90s. Uh, and how you'll know they're from the 90s is if they're not relevant. I'm kidding. But find a band from the 90s. They didn't have to form in the 90s, but a band who were active in the 90s. Do a little research, look them up. Find like their biggest record and then look up the sales. It's astonishing. Um, but of course, it kind of makes sense because back then there was no streaming. People would camp out at the record stores, and not even always necessarily record stores. It could be just stores where they sold media, your Kmart's, your Sears, where they carried CDs and maybe even vinyl still at the time. It made sense that record sales would be so high then. And of course, that's dropped down ever since, in the previous decades. But I can't even say week yet. These 5 days of what Taylor Swift has done blows even 90s numbers out of the water. Now, of course, I don't think that's indicative of the industry itself, because Taylor Swift is bigger than sliced bread right now. Taylor Swift is bigger than water, um, bigger than most religions in the world. So only someone like her, I feel, can move this many units right now so quickly and so acutely so. Um, it's kind of astonishing. You're gonna see if there was like a chart or like a graph that showed album sales, you would see the 90s tons of spikes because it was just selling so much back then. And then in the 2000s, you'd see like a decline, I'm not going to say rapid decline, but a decline for sure. This changes that. The Tortured Poets department is going to look like the big one of earthquakes on that chart because it's absolutely monumental. The sales that this album has had. But with that does come a little trouble in paradise. Not with that, but there has been a little bit of shaking in the palace. Some of the sand has kind of fallen off of the sandcastle because for some reason people are just now finding out, just now, that Taylor Swift's lyrics can be a little on the corny side. People are kind of picking apart the the themes and and lines on this new record, which is kind of nuts because when was her last album? I thought she released something last year. um I'm sure there were a couple uh rebels in the crowd who were picking things apart, but like right now you're seeing a lot more dissent in the kingdom, if you will. Like lots, I'm talking about lots of fans. Significant numbers of fans are kind of like um kind of coming out and like bashing some of her lyrics. And this is here's a good one. USA Today. You see, even on day one, I'm pulling sources. I'm like multitasking more than I ever have in my life. Um, I'm trying to give you guys a good product on day one. Taylor Swift draws backlash for all the racist lyrics on new Tortured Poets department record. What was her line? My friends used to play a game where we would pick a decade we wish we could live in instead of this. I'd say 1830s, but without all the racists, and getting married off for the highest bid. Okay, I guess Taylor Swift trying to educate people a little. Um, but I don't know if everybody who picked up the Tortured Poets department was necessarily hoping for a history lesson from Miss Taylor here. Uh, People are kind of dogging on her um, for these lyrics. It's like, huh? Okay. Like, odd. I mean, rappers, and I say rappers because, you know, rappers choose a lot of interesting similes in their music, but it's not just rap. Um, but interesting for Taylor to pull a few tricks out of the rap toolbox and kind of come up with something that came out of nowhere, didn't need to be said, and now you got a little bit of a backlash. If USA Today, an organization that by the skin of its teeth made it through the fall of print media, is talking about your lyrics, you probably shouldn't have said them. Um, but here's the thought, though. Yeah, people are saying, "Oh yeah, these are weird and bizarre and corny lyrics," but it's like, how do you think she got here, though? You know, like you don't become the biggest pop star on the face of the earth, and I could say that with extreme confidence. You don't become the world's largest pop star through making like high art. You really don't. And if you think you do, you're wrong. Because look at all the other mega stars over the years. Corny lyrics, silly songs, silly albums. Um, so the fact that people are just now kind of like, oh, Taylor Swift's kind of corny on this record. It's like, just this record? Not corny on Red? Okay. All right. And it's just funny. What this shows um, is this is actually kind of a good thing if you really think about it. It's healthy to see all the these Taylor Swift fans actually kind of disagreeing with one another and pointing out lyrical pitfalls and thematic flaws, kind of picking at the threads. That's actually good because last year when you'd hear about Taylor Swift, it was like, oh, this is a cult. Everyone and their mother commented on that, and it became a joke, an old joke, relatively fast. But it's good when you got a little bit of dissent amongst the cult. It's like, okay, like people are kind of disagreeing with her lyrics, or people are kind of pointing out, hey, what's this line about? And that's actually great and good and healthy because you don't want a fan base or a group or a collective to always be like, yes, this is great 100% of the time. Because then that's creepy. I'm sure even Taylor Swift herself probably sits in wherever she sits on her jet and probably sits there and thinks, man, I wish like fans would kind of like poke holes in my music from time to time. I wish like fans would kind of like uh yeah, like maybe pull out a few threads and like analyze my music a little more and kind of disagree. Because say what you will about like, oh, fans of the band Tool are all very annoying, or Slipknot fans are all very annoying, or whatever band. Think of a band. We all know of annoying fan bases. At the very least, even if you find them annoying, you're always going to hear different opinions. No, I think this is the worst record. Oh, I think this is the best record. I really like this one, but I kind of think it would have been better if it did this. At least there's variety, there's vegetables, there's there's spice, there's variety. When you have just one droning collective, then that's a problem. And that's like these people can take up arms for Taylor. I don't like that. So even though as an outsider one would think, oh, Taylor Swift is finally coming crashing down. The Swift empire is finally crumbling because a few fans are rising up. No, if anything, these little fiascos are good because it's good for the soul, good for the product, good for whatever she's doing. Because if everyone's agreeing all the time, then that's just, yeah, then there's validity to the claims. Oh, this is a cult. It's like, no, when you got people disagreeing, there's some spice, there's some variety, there's some there's something interesting going on here now. It's not just blind worship. So I think that's accidentally a good thing that came out of this silly little record, and it's being picked apart too by publications too. I'm not going to go ahead and give these publications the time of day or anything and like comb through reviews because that's not what this was intended to be. But I'm trying to highlight like, damn, there's it's not just a Taylor release. 100% of the fans like it, and then we move on. No, there's conversation, and I like that. It almost makes me want to listen to the damn thing. It's like, well, people are up in arms about it. Let's see what it's about then. I'm always one to do that. If you want me to listen to an artist, point to me the most controversial thing they did or released or put out. Tell me, yeah, that album that artist released, that's like the black sheep of their discography. I'm like, that's the one I'm starting with because there isn't that preconceived there isn't a price of admission. There isn't like homework that you needed to do going in. It's like, oh, if you like it, you liked it. If you didn't, you didn't. And with an artist as massive as Taylor Swift, I'm probably going to do the same thing. I don't listen to her or her music. But immediately when someone talks about her someday in the future, or maybe like as soon as tomorrow, I'll know, oh, Tortured Poets Department, that one had a little bit of a controversy behind it. Let me see what all that was about. So it inspired me. You see what you did, Internet? You see what you did, USA Today? You inspired me to listen to Taylor Swift, something I didn't think I'd be doing, especially day one of the show. It's like, and also, the lyrics are about a dude who plays football, too. When the lyrics aren't being weirdly about slavery in the 1830s, and they're also about a dude who plays goddamn football. The lyrics are about a dude who plays football for a team with a racy, vaguely insensitive name. You're bound to get corniness. Hello. She's writing about her boyfriend who plays football. If you thought this was going to be high art, I got a Taylor Swift record to sell you on vinyl and cassette and CDs everywhere near you. So I don't know what people were expecting here. People are poking holes in the big ball of thread that's Swift World. And it's just, I'm here for it. I'm here for it because at least it's interesting. I wanted to also talk about moving away from pop land over here. I wanted to talk about Sick New World. Here we are. Um, Finally, want to talk about bringing it back to rock a little bit. This is what you're going to hear. Um, I know I started off being topical talking about Taylor Swift, but rock and the rock world these days, not super topical. I don't know if you guys knew this, but rock isn't exactly in the greatest state on earth. However, these huge festivals like Sick New World and even Coachella this year that boasted quite a few rock acts um, do allow rock to rear its beautiful head from time to time. And Sick New World just passed this weekend. And boy, man, what what an interesting lineup. I know everybody on Earth uh, has talked about Sick New World and the lineup, and uh, who's playing what time. But I want to break down a little bit of the some of the performances here after having watched uh, some videos and having seen some pictures. You you have a festival that should be fantastic, but as this sits, it's just kind of all right, or good at the best. Let's see who we had because this is so funny. Uh, um, this Sick New World being a very big rock and metal festival in the year 2024 can't just be like Rockville and Sonic Temple and what's the other one, an Aftershock, and just have Metallica year in and year round. You got to have a little variety, and that's what I like that they do here. They boast tons and tons of what I call Sirius XM metal bands. You know, bands that you're never going to hear on like proper rock radio. But if you put on like Sirius XM, you know, when you just got a new car and it came with 3 months of Sirius XM, and you're like, let's see what this is all about. And you accidentally stumble upon the metal station. You'd be like, oh, who's this Polyphia? You know, these guys, Slaughter to Prevail. Who are these guys? Bands that lots of those types of bands, lots of those types of acts, and at the same time, though, getting the big guys. This this festival boasts a lot of those bands, which I'm not super huge into the ones I just mentioned, but it's kind of funny to see bands like a Perfect Circle and Primus and Baby Metal be like the big boys, be considered like the head honchos. It's kind of funny. That's because the tides are always turning and things are always changing. It was bound to happen, but it is kind of funny to see bands that formed in the early 2000s start to be like the big headliners or like the elder bands. I find that kind of funny. But I mean, as this sits though, I'm looking at like the spiral stage. You had bands go on essentially every 30 minutes. Helmet, Taproot, Skindred, Dayseeker, Dope. That stage, the spiral stage, I think begins to get really good or began, because this happened already. At when Helmet came on. Oh, Power Man 5000. Okay. Uh, Helmet, Taproot. I'm skipping a few here. Dope. Slaughter to Prevail, Static X. Ginger, Seven Dust. Sleep Token. I'm gonna tear into these guys another time. Not right now. Another time. Promise. Someone make a note of that. I have bones to pick with them. But then you got the red stage, and now we're talking. New metal, new metal extraordinaires, Kitty, Lorna Shore, Baby Metal, a band who's lasted quite a long time if you think about it. I saw Baby Metal open for, honest to God, Red Hot Chili Peppers back in 2017, and here they are, still kicking. You got Primus, then A Perfect Circle, then Danny Elfman, and then Slipknot. That's what I'm talking about, variety, because Danny Elfman, uh, if you ask the music listener at large, who's Danny Elfman? Many people will be like, that sounds familiar. Didn't he do like soundtracks? Yes, he did. But he was in a little band called Oingo Boingo. So I find it interesting that it wasn't just Oingo Boingo and it was just Danny Elfman. I don't know if Oingo Boingo been broken up or been like on a really long hiatus. But if you had put Oingo Boingo, man, you could have attracted so many 50-year-olds. So many dudes without hair would have been there in the Birkenstocks right there in the front. Like, yeah, I've seen Oingo Boingo 400 times. Let's see the other stage, the gold stage. Here you got more of the heavy hitters who've come out in the past, I'm going to say 3 years. You got Spirit Box, Ice Nine Kills, Lamb of God, of course, have been around definitely over 15 years, but I'm going to say maybe even before the 2000s. Bad Omens. Here you got potentially the oldest band, the oldest band here in the partaking in the festivities, Alice in Chains, man. A little bit of love to the grunge scene. Love that. We're gonna be the Horizon and then System of a Down. It warms my heart to see Alice in Chains still tour, and not only tour, but still get the love that they deserve. I think that's huge. Um, but other than that, I mean, I can't call this lineup spectacular or fantastic or anything, but the gold and red stages were definitely where it was at. Um, and yeah, the spiral stage too. Full this the spiral stage contained a lot of bands that I like, but none really that I love. Whereas the red stage, you got Primus and A Perfect Circle and Slipknot. And the gold stage had Alice in Chains and System of a Down, bands that I actually love. So, as far as anything I really would have wanted to see, really just would have been contained to those two stages. So I don't know, and I don't know if I would have been okay with dying of thirst in the middle of the Vegas desert. They're trying to kill the public, aren't they? Having a festival like that in the middle of Vegas with no building cover. I don't know. I've went through a lot. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with my concert going escapades, but I have been on like the brink of passing out from how long I've had to wait just to like go up to the barricade. Because I've been to Welcome to Rockville back in 2022. And Smashing Pumpkins were there. I got to the festival grounds at 8:30 in the morning, and the gates wouldn't open till 12. So that's already 4-ish hours of waiting just for the gates to open. Then when the gates would open, you got the mad dash to the front. The gates would open at noon, and they didn't go on till like 8:30. So that's a lot of waiting. So I'm pretty sure I could have roughed it out. I could have toughed out some of these elements here. I don't think the weather was anything too nuts. Let's see. Let's see what the weather was like in Vegas. 89 degrees today. I don't think you could look up days that already happened. But I'm willing to bet it was more or less the same this past weekend. That's a tough one. Because Vegas is dry heat. Whereas here is humidity. So I don't know, that's a tough one. Could I have endured the elements for Static X? Probably. To any of the artists whose act involves wearing masks and costumes of some kind, and you play some of these shows that take place in like the hottest parts on Earth, you gotta get paid like extra. You gotta make like double. Like Static X, Slipknot, Primus, often Les Claypool wearing his masks. Those guys had to have. I would put, if I was their agent, I'd be like, look, we need a costume clause. We need the costume clause. My client wears suits and wigs and outfits on stage and helmets and masks, and we're playing in goddamn Las Vegas. Yeah, my client is going to need 3 times what you're offering. And they'd probably do it. They'd be like, yeah, we want to have Static X play at our show. Yeah, let's do it. These promoters, they got the money. If any one of these festivals ever comes out one day and says that they don't have the money and they can't book a lot of these artists, they're lying to you. They're lying to you. They definitely have the money to get System of a Down to come out of their weirdly long hiatus. So these people have money. They could probably, for sure, for sure, pay these artists those types of amounts. I don't know how, like, if they're insane numbers, but they definitely got some type of cash. Uh, yeah, if you can play Florida and Nevada and uh, and wear these costumes to your thing, man, you need to receive a purple damn heart. Everybody in Slipknot should have like a purple heart, a Presidential Medal of Freedom for wearing those outfits in goddamn Las Vegas. And they come to Florida all the time. They need some type of presidential like Medal of Freedom for wearing that, for wearing the jumpsuits they wear, the masks, the helmets, the this, the that, uh, and they can brave out the element. Those guys, we need to pay for their homes. Us as taxpayers need to pay for the homes of Corey Taylor, for the bravery that he does day in and day out, wearing these insane outfits that make me sweat just looking at him here in my 4x4 foot room. That is a hero. Those are heroes, guys. I pledge allegiance to the Slipknot flag. I will actually wake up every morning and pledge allegiance to Slipknot and to Static X and to Tool and to Perfect Circle and to Primus for wearing these outrageous outfits in these insane weather conditions. That is bravery, ladies and gentlemen. That, for now, really is all I kind of wanted to talk about. I'm sure there's going to be other things come up in the near future that I want to talk about or mention. I mean, just now, as I'm saying this, I see Slipknot just basically acknowledge that their new drummer is Eloy Casagrande. Um, yeah, I mean, that's not enormous news, I guess. But that's really about all I kind of wanted to say really for now. There will be more to say at a later date. Don't you worry. But for now, this is kind of about it. Episode 1 in the books. Finally got that one off my chest. Depending on how this goes, maybe I'll be like, maybe I could start taking like Adderall or something, or like Ritalin for focus. That way I can probably finally get some executive function back in my life and be like, oh, wow, I actually enjoyed recording that podcast. Oh, wow. And some people listened. And that'll be like, maybe they had a point. Maybe this whole following your dreams thing, maybe there's something to it. We will talk again. You will hear from me again very, very soon. All right, peace out. Our Loud World episode 1 is done.